All right, now we're moving on to the really important stuff. These things called variance and standard deviation. Now, I'm partially sarcastic for one of these, but also not sarcastic at all for the other one. The variance, denoted by, that's a symbol we haven't looked at yet. That is called a lowercase sigma. Now, when I draw it, it looks like it's a B that's tipped over. So that's a lowercase sigma. So we're talking sigma squared. We will talk about capital sigma in a different unit. But sigma squared is the average of the squared differences from the mean. What? We'll talk more about that in a second. Standard deviation, denoted just by sigma, so not sigma squared, just good old sigma, is the square root of the variance and is one of the most common and the most useful measures of variance. Now, to calculate the variance and standard deviation, the first thing we're going to do is calculate the mean of the data, and we're going to use a new label for that. It's an x with a bar above it, which is appropriately called x bar. So not super complicated, not a super sophisticated name. But after we find the mean, step 2 says we're going to find the difference between the mean and each data value and square it. So we're going to subtract the two values and square it. Step 3, we're going to find the variance, the sigma squared, by adding all those numbers we got up in step 2, adding them all up and finding the mean of that data. So essentially dividing it by all of it, or the number of values we just had. Step 4, we're going to take the value we got in step 3 and take the square root of it to find the sigma, to find our standard deviation. So let's start working through this. So here's the data set. We're asked to find the mean and standard deviation of the data set of the number of people getting on and off a bus for several stops. So at one stop, there are 6 people, then 8 people, then 7, 5, 10, 6, 9, 8, 4. I'm going to walk through the steps. We're asked to find the mean. Then we're going to find the difference between the mean and each data value and square it. Find the variance, in other words, add all those values up, divided by however many there are. Step 4, find standard deviation. So, to find the mean, you'll notice in that table right below it, I already have the values listed there. So you're going to add all these values up here. So add the 6, 8, 7, 5, 10, 6, 9, 8, and 4. I'm such a nice guy, I'll do that work for you. We got x bar equals total of 63 divided by 9. It ends up being a nice, convenient 7. Now we're going to take, in this table, we're going to do x minus x bar. We're going to have to fill out 2 different rows of this table. So x minus x bar, in other words, we're going to take the 6 minus the 7, we're going to get negative 1. 8 minus the 7, the x bar, the mean, is 1. 7 minus 7, 0. 5 minus 7, negative 2. 10 minus 7, 3. 6 minus 7, negative 1. 9 minus 7, 2. 8 minus 7, 1. And finally, 4 minus 7, oops, sorry, I scrolled too far. 4 minus 7, negative 3. So that's the x minus x bar. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take each of those values and square it. So we're going to take the negative 1 and square it, which gives us positive 1. Positive 1 squared, still positive 1. 0 squared, 0. Negative 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. 2 squared is 4. 1 squared is 1. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. Now to find the variance, that's the sigma squared. We're going to take all those values, the 1 plus 0 plus 4 plus 9 plus 1 plus 4 plus 1 plus 9, and divide that by the total number of values. We already figured that out. There are 9 total values. When we add all those up, we get 30 divided by 9. And when we do that, we got 3.3 repeated forever, 3 1/3. So that is our variance. Now again, variance is really only significant to help us find standard deviation. So to find standard deviation, we're going to do sigma is equal to the square root of that sigma squared we just found. Well, sigma squared is 3.3 repeated. So on your calculator, when you're doing square root of 3.3 repeated, just honestly type 3 for a while. There are some options. You can do 3 1/3 if you want to get more sophisticated on your calculator, but just type 3 for quite a while. Afterwards, you end up with a standard deviation of 1.83. Now, this is one of those instances where we can spend this time just finding a value, and I'm not going to have us use the value right away. We'll learn more about when to use it on the next example.